Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am honored to be here this evening as your Master of Ceremonies and to represent the members of the Hall of Fame Selection Committee. At this time, we'd like to start the celebration of our new inductees into the Dartmouth High School Athletic Hall of Fame by introducing them to you. Our first inductee is from the class of 1951. He lettered in football and basketball for 4 years and in golf for 2 years. He was co-captain of the basketball team during his senior year and was voted Male Athlete of the Year in 1951. Please welcome Mr. Robert Vieira. Our second inductee is from the class of 1962. He lettered in indoor track and spring track for 3 years and was captain of both teams as a senior. He was the state Class D 50-yard dash champion in 1962 and was a member of the state relay championship team in both 1961 and 1962. To this day, he still holds the Dartmouth High School long jump record with a jump of 22 feet, 7 inches. Unfortunately, Mr. John Medeiros could not be with us this evening, so please welcome his sister Jean Mare and her son, Mr. Nelson Mare, who will be accepting the award for Mr. Medeiros. Our next inductee is from the class of 1965. She was a 4-sport athlete at Dartmouth High School, competing in field hockey, basketball, volleyball, and softball for 4 years. During her senior year, she captained all 4 teams. Rosemary Choquette is out of town and could not be with us this evening, but she has left a letter for me to read at the time of her induction. Our next inductee is from the class of 1989. He was a 3-sport athlete for all 4 years at Dartmouth High School. He played varsity soccer and ice hockey for 4 years and varsity baseball for 2 years. He was awarded the Athlete for All Seasons Award during his senior year. Please welcome Mr. Ryan Fonseca. Ryan, you're not used to being inducted into these things. You should know the routine by now, pal. Our next inductee is from the class of 1992. He was a 3-sport athlete at Dartmouth High School, lettering in football, indoor track, and spring track. During his senior year, he was undefeated in dual meets for both indoor and spring seasons. He still holds the Dartmouth High School record for the 50-yard and 55-meter hurdles for indoor track and the 110-meter high hurdles and 300-meter intermediate hurdles for spring track. He was also voted the Male Athlete of the Year in 1992. Please welcome Mr. Donald Saucia. Our next inductee is from the class of 1993. She was a 3-sport athlete at Dartmouth High School, competing in soccer, basketball, and softball. She lettered for 4 years in soccer, 3 years in softball, and 2 years in basketball. As a senior, she was captain for the soccer and softball teams. She was a Boston Globe All-Scholastic in softball in 1992 and 93. Please welcome Ms. Cheryl Glassman. Our next inductee is from the class of 1997. He earned 3 varsity letters in football, indoor track, and spring track, and captained all 3 teams during his senior year. He was the state Class B runner-up in 1997, and he is the school spring track record holder for the shot put with a throw of 57 feet, 1.5 inches. Our inductee is Mr. Michael Cadiro, who passed away in September of 2006. Please welcome Michael's brothers Brian and Philip Cadiro, who will be accepting the award for him this evening. Our next inductee is also from the class of 1997. She was a 3-sport athlete at Dartmouth High School, competing in volleyball, basketball, and softball for all 4 years. She was selected as captain of both the basketball and softball teams as a senior. She was a starting shortstop on the softball team during her entire career at Dartmouth High School. She received the Athlete of All Seasons Award during her senior year. Please welcome Ms. Courtney Costa. Our next inductee is entering the Dartmouth High School Hall of Fame as a coach, but also has the distinction of being a graduate of Dartmouth High School in 1962. She taught and coached at Dartmouth High School from 1969 to 2003. She served as the only head field hockey coach during that 34-year span. She also served as the head softball coach for 13 years and the head basketball coach and volleyball coach during her career. Her field hockey teams won 17 league championships and 1 state Division I state field hockey crown. Her field hockey teams recorded 32 out of 34 seasons with a winning record. Please welcome Miss June Lack. Our final inductee will be receiving the Hall of Fame Special Achievement Award. He is a practicing attorney in Dartmouth and a former member of the Dartmouth School Committee. He has always understood the value of high school athletics and worked behind the scenes to ensure that all Dartmouth High School athletes had whatever was needed to compete at the highest level. Please welcome Mr. Thomas Burke. At this time, I would like to ask for one final round of applause and ask our inductees to please have a seat.
On behalf of the Dartmouth School Committee and all of us who are affiliated with the Dartmouth schools, I would like to welcome you. I would like to honor the Hall of Fame inductees, and I'd like to thank you all for being here. Dartmouth High School and the Dartmouth schools have many wonderful traditions. Tonight's Hall of Fame induction in the Hall of Fame program through the many years that it has existed is just one of those traditions. We all know that anything of value does not come easily and shouldn't be taken for granted, and this is one such thing. However, without people to sustain it, to get involved, to contribute to it, many traditions that we all know and love are being challenged on a pretty much a daily basis. One of the people here this evening, I think I'm just going to go over to that table. One of the people who are here this evening who has helped maintain and support these traditions has been our own athletic director, Tom McDermott. Tom hasn't made a big deal of it, but he's retiring after 31 years within the Dartmouth schools and I believe 7 years as athletic director. And while I can't give him a Hall of Fame induction ceremony this evening, what I can do is ask all of you to take a moment and give Tom a well-deserved round of applause. Tom is one of those people who works behind the scenes to keep many very important traditions alive, and I know that you all join me in sharing our thanks and appreciation for Tom and all that he has done. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Russell. Very kind of you. Greatly appreciated. It is now my pleasure to ask the young lady who is presently the principal of Dartmouth High School and has carried on the tradition of many fine principals before her in being supportive of all of the Dartmouth High School programs for our students, and especially the athletic program. So it is my pleasure to ask Principal Donna Dimry to come up and share a few words with you as well. Mrs. Dimry.
Good evening. As the principal of Dartmouth High School, I want to congratulate all of the honored inductees this evening. It's my privilege to tell you all about the importance of the Athletic Hall of Fame and its significance, particularly to the new Dartmouth High School on Slocum Road, on Bakerville Road. I sometimes wonder if Rick Berry had any idea how much his proposal for a DHS Athletic Hall of Fame would add a feeling of continuity and tradition to all aspiring DHS athletes and indeed to all DHS students and our Dartmouth community. When you walk into the foyer of the new building, the very first thing that catches your eye is the DHS Athletic Hall of Fame with its photos of honored athletes, coaches, and friends of Dartmouth athletic programs and athletes. I can't even begin to put into words the feeling that that wall evokes. Our students and visitors to the school are immediately drawn to it. They look at those photos and plaques, and you need to know that your skill, your dedication to your sport, to your school, your enthusiasm for representing Dartmouth High School is there and will be there for all to see. Your photo, along with all the others that are hanging, will inspire today's and future athletes to compete for their alma mater and for their place in Dartmouth High School history, for their place on the wall. I congratulate you for this important event. You will be in our halls. You will be influencing students forever. Congratulations. We are honored by the work that you have always done on the field and off. Thank you.
Before we begin to induct our 10 new members into the Dartmouth High School Athletic Hall of Fame, I know there's at least one and hopefully more than here. I'd like to ask any member of the Hall of Fame that is present this evening to please stand and be recognized. I know there's at least a couple in here. 1, 2. I'd like to thank all of you for being here this evening to celebrate the induction of our new members. Tonight is the 14th induction ceremony for the Dartmouth High School Athletic Hall of Fame. The selection committee would like to congratulate each of this year's inductees. We are here to honor you and your athletic accomplishments at Dartmouth High School, and to allow you to enjoy some of the memories you have created for all of us. Our first inductee tonight is Mr. Robert Vieira, class of 1951. Mr. Vieira will be presented by Mr. Victor Ledetto. Mr. Ledetto was also a graduate of Dartmouth High School in 1951. He was vice president of his senior class and participated in football and basketball for 4 years at Dartmouth High School. He is a retired principal of Cushman School and has been a longtime resident of Dartmouth. Both his son John and daughter Catherine are also DHS graduates. Mr. Ledetto, if you would come forward, please.
I give my personal congratulations to the 10 inductees who are entering the Dartmouth High Athletic Hall of Fame. Your accomplishments are truly outstanding. It's an honor to speak in support of Bob Vieira's induction into the Hall of Fame. In the 1951 Dartmouth High School yearbook, Bob Vieira was quoted and voted as the male student athlete of the year. I have known him as a classmate, a teammate, and a friend for over 60 years. The write-up under his picture in the yearbook reads as follows: Bob is one of the rugged athletes of Dartmouth High School. His popularity as a player led to his election as captain of the football team. Whether on the gridiron or on the basketball court, he always turned in a top performance. Remember, we were talking about football in the 1950s. We wore leather helmets. Players played both offense and defense, and the quarterback, not the coaches, called all the plays. In our senior year, the football team was able to purchase 4 modern-day helmets, and they were given to 4 of the graduating seniors. I brought a picture in tonight, if anyone would like to see that, of our final team. There were no such things as face protection guards, with the exception of the quarterback, who was allowed to have 1 safety bar attached to his helmet. Hip pads and rib pads were at a premium. In spite of these circumstances, Bob excelled as a fullback on the football team, scoring several touchdowns during his junior and senior years. He was the leading ground gainer in his senior year, serving as a workhorse in the backfield. He could gain those tough 2 or 3 yards up the middle, but he also displayed the ability and the speed to go wide for long gains. He was an excellent receiver out of the backfield. He also served as a kicker on the team. In the Diamond Vocational game, he ran for 56 yards in the 3rd period out of 62 team yards and 1 scoring margin for Dartmouth. He had 1 interception and a 60-yard scoring run in the game. He received 4 letters in football, 4 letters in basketball, and 2 letters in golf. It is unusual for a freshman to play enough varsity time to be eligible to receive a letter. Bob also excelled in basketball, playing as a first-team forward, often scoring more than 20 points or more. The Standard Times cited him as an all-around ball player who has an aggressive style that makes life miserable for foes under the Dartmouth basket. I played as a point guard on the basketball team and often tried to get the ball into Bob's hands because I knew good things would happen as a result. I served as co-captain with Bob in the 1951 basketball team. His leadership and basketball ability helped us become the Narragansett League runners-up that year. The year following his graduation, Bob joined the semi-pro Murphy Club and was selected that year as the outstanding back in the 1952 season. Bob, again, congratulations on receiving this high honor. All members of the class of 1951 are very proud of you.
I'd like to thank, I'm sorry, I'm shook up here a little bit. I'll get myself together. I want to thank the Dartmouth Hall of Fame Committee for this induction. I also want to thank all my teammates, my classmates. I've got a table full of them down there. Vic Ladetto. Vic and I played ball from Gidley School through high school. We played football and basketball together for 4 years in high school. We were co-captains on the basketball team. Another man in the audience, Gabe DeTata, and I, we started first grade together. We went all through grammar school and high school together. We played basketball together for 4 years. He was the point guard with Vic on my senior year. He was also #1 on the golf team as my playing partner. Whenever I fell down, Gabe was there to pick me up. Milt King was in the backfield with me, 1950. Also a great basketball player. Phil Broder, little guy, about 135 pounds in high school, but you wouldn't want to get tackled by him. He played 4 years with us. I don't know if there's anybody else here I forgot. I think that's all there is with my classmates. There's not too many of us left. But I also want to thank the ladies in my class for supporting the golf, basketball, and football teams. They all showed up for the games every Saturday or weeknights when we had basketball. I grew up in a neighborhood with 6 Hall of Famers within a radius of 2 blocks. There was Dick Sisson, Donald Sisson, Graham Macon, Walter Jenkins, Ralph Jenkins, and Bob Graham. We were all within a 2-block area, formerly called Carrollton Heights. So as growing up as kids, you looked up to these guys because they were all older than I were. And again, thank you very much. I really appreciate this.
Mr. Vieira, Coach Rick White wanted to know if you could let us know if there was something in the water in that neighborhood that got all the Hall of Famers in. He said he could use a few at the high school. Grandchildren, okay. Our next inductee is Mr. John Medeiros, class of 1962. Mr. Medeiros will be presented by Mr. Albert Porter, and accepting the award for Mr. Medeiros will be his sister, Jean Mare, and her son, Nelson Mare. Mr. Porter has been a teacher, coach, and administrator at Dartmouth High School. He has coached numerous league championship and state championship track teams at the high school. He has coached many athletes who have been league champions, state champions, and national champions. The outdoor track was named in Mr. Porter's honor at Dartmouth High School on May 17, 2006. Mr. Porter has been a longtime resident of Dartmouth and is still active as a state indoor and outdoor track official. Mr. Albert Porter.
Thank you, Tommy. I want to offer my congratulations to all the inductees tonight. Well done, richly deserved. It's a distinct honor for me to be able to, at long last, acknowledge John A. Medeiros. I have to apologize to Medeiros' family. We've been trying as a committee to find out where John was so that we could install him. A few of John's credentials. He's a state champion in the 50-yard dash indoors. He's runner-up outdoors in the 100-yard dash in 1962. He was in the second in the long jump in 1962, a year which the team won the state championship. He was captain of the team in 61 and 62, high scorer in 61 and 62, and made his presence felt over the years there. We've been very fortunate at Dartmouth High School to have had some very great track athletes. And John certainly ranks as one of the most outstanding that we've had. I congratulate the family now with John's induction. I have a story to tell. In John's home, they primarily spoke Portuguese, and he spoke English with a very pronounced Portuguese accent. And I was told in no uncertain terms by the then guidance department at Dartmouth High School that we'd best forget trying to get John into college because he couldn't speak English. But I'm proud to say that John did get into the University of Massachusetts in Amherst, graduated at the top of his class, was awarded the Outstanding Student Athlete Award from the University of Massachusetts, captained the University of Massachusetts track team, still holds the long jump record at the University of Massachusetts, went on to get his PhD, went down to Penn State University where he was on the faculty for many years, and now he has his own consulting company and works for the government, and that's why he can't be with us now because of the press of government business. So to John's family and to John in absentia, welcome to the Dartmouth High School Hall of Fame. Receiving of John's sister, Jean Murray, and his nephew, Nelson Murray. And I could kill Nelson because Nelson was on the track team. I see Nelson 4 or 5 times a year. He knew where John was, and we've been looking for him for years. No more than an hour.
Well, I'm honored to be here on behalf of my uncle. It was really privileged that he asked me to do this. In the event, only 3 pages, it's not too bad. Okay, the big letters, big letters. Okay, first let me say I feel highly honored to have been nominated by the committee and the Friends of Dartmouth High School for the honor of being inducted into your Athletic Hall of Fame. While it's been a very long time since I was there, I still remember with great fondness my years at DHS, especially the wonderful friends and great teachers and outstanding coach who made those years so memorable and so much fun. Let me say also that I very much regret that I cannot be there in person to accept the singular honor. It is only because of a prior commitment made many months ago that I could not be there. While I would have spared no expense to get there, I could not in good conscience back out on my previous commitment. By way of letting you know what I have been up to since I left Dartmouth High School, I give you a very brief synopsis of the last nearly half century. After DHS, I attended the University of Massachusetts Amherst. There, I participated in the track team during my 4 undergraduate years. I was elected captain of the team over both my junior and senior years, and I ran several events, typically 5 each meet, including the sprints, hurdles, high jump, triple jump, and long jump. I was conference champion in a couple of events a few times over my years at UMass, and I did break what was then a 40-year-old school long jump record at 23 feet, 8 inches. In my senior year, I received what I considered my highest honor while I was there, and was named the Eastern College's Athletic Conference Scholar Athlete of the Year at the university. I attended graduate school also at UMass and received my PhD in physics in 1972. I then accepted a postdoctoral fellowship and later a research fellowship at the University of Western Ontario in London, Ontario, Canada, where I did research on laser damage mechanisms in the eye. That work had a small part in developing what are now common techniques in ophthalmology for the treatment of a number of eye problems and diseases. In 1978, I became an assistant professor of physics at Penn State, where I stayed long enough to become tenured in 1984. At that time, I was made one of those offers you just can't refuse, to work for a defense contractor out in the wilds of New Mexico, doing research on military-related infrared and visible optics at twice the money Penn State was then paying. I've continued to work in the defense industry for a couple of different companies, and I'm still working now for a small company called Coastal Corporation in Huntsville, Alabama, where I have been for the last 20 years. Fun stuff that I have done over the years that I can talk about, including helping build what was then, at one time, the second most powerful computer cluster in the world back in 2004. And that system, the Mac 5 computer, is still the largest single collection in the world of Apple computers. Over the years, I wrote a bunch of papers and a whole lot of conference presentations, and just recently, in the accomplishment I'm most proud of, I published a book in 2006 on my theory of human color vision titled Cone Shape and Color Vision, Unification of Structure and Perception. And yes, that is an unabashed plug for the book, available at Amazon.com and other fine booksellers. Incidentally, if you don't want to spring for the book, you can see what it's all about on my website, conesandcolor.net. On a more personal note, I have 2 sons, Steve, who works for the computer gaming industry while he's still trying to break into acting out in LA, and Dave, who is finishing up his doctorate in linguistics at the University of Arizona. Dave and his wife recently gave us our first grandchild, a boy named Alex. Last page. My loving and wonderful wife, Nancy, is in practice as a medical retina specialist in ophthalmology here, where we live in Huntsville, Alabama. I've been blessed over the years to have known and worked with many wonderful people. I'm especially grateful to have had so many wonderful friends and family back in Dartmouth. I truly regret I cannot be there with you tonight, but I know you will all have a great event nonetheless. Again, thank you very much for the honor you have given me tonight, and I wish to extend my best to the friends of Dartmouth High School in the years to come. Go DHS.
Our next inductee is Rosemarie Choquette, class of 1965. Ms. Choquette could not be with us this evening, so I'd like to speak briefly about her athletic career at Dartmouth High School and read a letter she has left with me. Ms. Choquette is a rare DHS athlete that was able to letter in 4 sports for 4 years. Her outstanding athletic ability also had her selected as captain of all 4 teams during her senior year. In talking to people that knew her and saw her play, they stated she was smart, hardworking, and enthusiastic, both in the classroom and on the athletic field. She was the epitome of what Dartmouth pride should be. Now I'd like to read a letter that Rosemarie left with me before. She is involved in a dog shelter that is out of Rhode Island and out of West Virginia. And she had made plans to be down there. They're filming a video down in West Virginia, and she had made plans to be there a long time ago, and that's the reason she could not be with us tonight. She says, "I'm sorry that I could not be with you this evening. I would like to thank Mr. Tom McDermott for standing in and accepting this award for me. As I look back over those special high school years, I realize that there are some special people that I would like to publicly acknowledge. I would like to thank my mom and dad for believing that education was most important, for setting high standards and holding us to them. I would also like to thank them for always supporting and encouraging me to follow my dreams. I would like to thank my brother Armin for putting up with me and my teammates. He was always there to help me with extra practice. He was at all my games and allowed me to drag him along to our Friday night after-game pizza parties. I would like to thank my teammates for all the wins, for all the losses, and for all the memories. I would like to thank the teachers, administrators, and staff of Dartmouth High School for providing a safe, caring, academic atmosphere that allowed all athletes to reach their potential. I would like to send out a special thank you to my two high school coaches, Ms. Doreen Sparling and Mrs. Marcia Pickard. They truly exemplify what a teacher-coach should be. They taught us to be humble in victory and gracious in defeat. They taught us there was no I in hero or in team, and that we should be playing for the love of the sport. Both on and off the field, they modeled Dartmouth pride. These two wonderful women were a major influence on who I became as an athlete and as a person. Lastly, I would like to thank the members of the Hall of Fame committee for your dedication and commitment to DHS athletes, past, present, and future. Thank you for this wonderful honor. Thanks again, Rosie. Our next inductee will be Mr. Ryan Fonseca, class of 1989. Mr. Fonseca will be presented by Mr. Michael Freites. Mr. Freites is a high school and college classmate of Mr. Fonseca. Mr. Freites is a teacher coach at Dartmouth High School today and is a longtime friend and teammate. They have enjoyed many memorable hours on the baseball, and yeah, as you get older, softball, fields in town. And they have remained close friends for over 20 years. Mr. Michael Freites.
Good evening. I would like to thank Ryan for asking me to present him tonight. It is truly an honor to be here with Ryan and all of the other inductees, both past and present. I've been friends with Ryan for over 20 years. We met through our dads when they were playing in the local softball leagues in the late 70s, early 80s, and we were just kids. We played together in high school, for 2 years in college, throughout the summers, and still to this day. We actually were even roommates, which was interesting. Ryan was a student athlete at Dartmouth High from 1985 to 1989. During his time there, he was an athlete for all seasons, competing in soccer, ice hockey, and baseball for 4 years, and excelling in all three. On the soccer field, Ryan was a 4-year varsity player and was named both a conference and Standard Times All-Star. On the ice, he was again a 4-year varsity player. During his senior year, he led the SMC in scoring and was a conference and Standard Times All-Star. He was a member of the 1989 team, which made the tournament, and his 47 goals and 42 assists ranks him as the 10th leading scorer in Dartmouth High history. However, it was on the baseball field where Ryan shined brightest. Although small in stature, he played the game much, much bigger. Ryan was a 2-year starter at second base and was again a conference and Standard Times All-Star. Talking to Coach McDermott, he remembers Ryan as being a team player. He was a competitor who always worked to improve, but the one thing that sticks out most is he loved being on the field. I enjoyed playing with Ryan because he always kept things loose, whether it was on the bench or in the field. Whether it was throwing little pebbles at you from his position at second base, or filling the finger holes of your glove up with dirt, sunflower seeds, grass. He always kept you on your toes. But when the game was on the line, he was the one you wanted the ball hit at. We still talk about the double play against King Philip in the 1989 tournament game. After high school, Ryan went on to play at Plymouth State for 2 years, and then Bridgewater State, the highlight being named to the All-New England team and playing at Fenway Park. To Ryan and the new members here tonight, may you always wear the mantle of your membership with pride and enjoy the spirit of tradition and accomplishment that is yours today. You have all earned it. In closing, I would like to tell Ryan you are one of the finest players I've ever had the privilege to play with. You never cared who you played against, you just wanted the chance to prove you were better than them. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to present to you Mr. Ryan Fonseca, class of 1989.
Thank you. It's the first microphone I don't need the 9X yellow pages to reach. Thanks, Mike. That was nice. Thank you for the election committee for inducting me this year. It's a real good honor. You know, taking a look around the room, I see a lot of faces I haven't seen in 20 years now. I've been out of high school. It's amazing how people have changed. I started playing organized sports when I was 6 years old. Long time ago, and taking a look around and some of the faces that I see a lot of the parents that were there when we were 6, 7, 8 years old, especially in the sport of hockey, looking around. It's unbelievable how important, lucky I was to have two parents, my father who coached me and my mother who supported me from the stands over the years. They're not with here tonight because they're vacationing in the Bahamas. If that camera reaches it, hey, how you doing? But without them, I would never have had the success that I had growing up. Hopefully I can provide the same parenting skills and coaching to my son Nolan and my girlfriend's kids and whoever else may, if coaching lies ahead for me, hopefully I can provide the same thing that they provided me. I can always remember being at the stadium when I was in 8th grade, sitting there watching the game and watching a bunch of kids walk by with Dartmouth jackets on. And some of them had letters on the back and some of them didn't. So I said to somebody next to me, I can't remember who it was, I said, what's the letters mean? And they said, well, that means you made a varsity sport. So I had my goal set for me right away that I wanted to be a varsity letterman as soon as I was a freshman year, that fall of '85, playing soccer. So I was fortunate enough to get up there and, bang, made varsity my freshman year. Got to play with some fantastic soccer players, some of whom are in the Hall of Fame. The only thing I really regret was not being able to speak enough Portuguese when I first started out. But I was able to get, the words that I needed to understand, and most of it was pass the ball here. So that's what I did. I passed the ball. So after that, the fall ended, and it was time to, lace up the skates and get the gloves and the sticks. And Coach Bob Hayes, who was our youth hockey coach, as a lot of you know here, since we were 6, 7 years old, growing up all the way to high school. And let me tell you about Mr. Hayes' style of coaching hockey. It was his way or the highway. He reminded me of like a thermometer. When you're out on the ice, you have an intermission between the second and third period, and you looked at Coach Hayes, and the more red he was, the more hotter he was, and you didn't want to go into that locker room if that thing was up there on red. But he was quite a coach. I learned a lot from him over the years, and some of the great players. It was like a family growing up. Some of us today are still best of friends. Since 7th or 8th grade. I see Jay Burks here today. I played with him since we were probably 7 years old, 6, 7 years old. And then it was time for the spring to, put the skates away and get the bats and balls going. And baseball unfortunately we made the postseason both years, my junior and senior year. Senior year we lost the second round. But Coach McDermott taught me a lot, to be able to, how to feel the ball especially. It wasn't real nice because I had the tendency to take my head off the ball and not get in front of it. And let me tell you, I left a lot of practices with welts all over my body because he would hit another one at me. If I turned my head, hit another one at me. If I turned my head, another, and it just went on until I finally was able to get my body in front of the ball. But I got a little story about that for you in a couple of minutes that I've probably forgotten about. So anyway, Dartmouth High was a fantastic time. A lot of memories, a lot of great friends that I still keep in touch with, especially Mike Freites, who we went to college with. He wasn't too happy about coming up to visit me for the first time because I was a year older than him. The bus dropped him off, and I had about 100 snowballs lined up, and ba-boom-ba. He took a beating when he walked off that bus. But anyway, I want to thank everybody again. And as far as Coach McDermott, he was an umpire in the summers when I was in college, and I played in the league in Fall River. And one day I saw Coach McDermott coming out of the outfield, the umpire, and he had his mask, so I knew he was doing the plate. Well, our coach said, "Our catcher's not showing up. Does anyone want to volunteer to catch?" And my arm went up. So it was the first time I'd ever caught in my life. Coach McDermott got behind the plate, and I just remembered those ground balls that he hit me out with the welts. So I got down there, and just so you know, Mr. McDermott didn't wear any shin pads when he umpired. And the third pitch, I heard, "Ow!" And then a couple pitches after that, I don't want to repeat, but a lot of memories. Those are the things, you know, that we cherish the most. So once again, thank you for the induction, and to everybody else that got inducted. Thanks.
Rye, I still have a copy of that double play in 1989 on videotape. If you want a copy, I'll get it to you. It's a great thing to watch every once in a while. About the same size. Our next inductee will be Mr. Donald Saucier, class of 1992. Mr. Saucier will be presented by Mr. Joseph McCarthy. Mr. McCarthy has been a teacher at Dartmouth High School for the past 32 years. He was the head boys and girls indoor and spring track coaches from 1979 to 1995. His boys indoor track team in 1992 earned the Class B state championship title. You guessed it, one of the captains of that team was Donald Saucier, Mr. Joe McCarthy.
Wow, this is going to be hard. Rick, you're here to help. Rick White was one of my assistant coaches that year, and he's a great guy. Thank you very much, Tom. Ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a pleasure and an honor to be here tonight to witness the induction of so many of you into Dartmouth High School's Hall of Fame. First, I would like to congratulate Don on his induction. Sauce, I hope you don't mind it. For the next few minutes, I'm going to use your nickname. That's what we called him from the first time. I think it was probably from the first time I met him when he was a freshman, and now. And it turns out, in talking to his mom and his sister, they still call him Sauce today, even though Sauce is now a doctor of psychology at Kansas State University. He still goes by the name Sauce with his family, and that's great to hear. Let's see, where am I? Okay, here we go. If you look at the Hall of Fame booklet, you can see some of Don's accomplishments, not only at Dartmouth High School, but he went on to run track at Colby, still holds some of the records there. But I want to go back and just give you a little bit about the way it all started for Don. Sauce, I still remember when you were a freshman, and I would always have a meeting with the freshmen and tell them, you need to find an event that you think you could be halfway decent at. Now Don, let's picture Don. He was about 5 feet, maybe 5'2" at the time, maybe weighed 120 pounds. And Don decided to pick the hurdles. When we put the hurdle up next to Don, it was about the same size as he was. So I was wondering at that time, was this going to work? Well, 2 years later, his junior and senior year, Don went undefeated in both the high hurdles indoor and the intermediate and high hurdles outdoor throughout the whole dual meet season. So I guess it worked, Sauce. I guess it worked. Incredible, absolutely incredible. In 1991-92, Sauce was one of our 3 captains, along with Matt Sylvain and Jason Mora. And this is one of the most proudest moments of my coaching career. I remember taking the group of kids that we knew, I had a chance to do something special. I remember that whole season. We were looking at the newspapers because the Globe used to post the best times. It's not like now where you can find them online and stuff. Back then, you were hoping the paper would post the best times. And I knew I had a special group of kids. Most of them were seniors. And we had a chance. I knew we did. I remember calling you guys into the locker room about 2 weeks before, okay, and telling you guys, hey, if you want it, you can do it. And we came up with a saying. Remember that saying, Sauce? You do? To the wall. To the wall. And it's on that plaque that's up in the high school to this day, okay? And that day, okay, was a very special day for all of us. The last story I want to end with here, I don't want to take up too much time. That day of that meet, I will never forget this. Sauce had already run 4 hurdle races. When you run hurdles, you run in the prelims, and you have to qualify to go on and on. And during those races, he was whacking his knee like he always did, okay, and he could barely walk. And we needed him in the 4x4, which was the last race. Now, if I set the stage a little bit, we were ahead in that meet until the very last race. And the last race is the 4x400 meter relay. Our team had qualified, but we weren't fast enough to get into the fastest heat. After that fastest heat, the predominant Class B champion always was, Sauce? Not Lexington, that's Class A. Reading High School. Okay, and I remember Hal Croft, who was a great high school coach, scowling. He always scowled. I just walked around like a crazy guy at that point. That's the way I was. Rick used to try to calm me down, but it didn't work very well. All right, and Sauce came up to me and said, Coach, I'm running. He could barely walk, okay, but Coach, I'm running. And I got the guys together right after Reading had won. We were down by 1 point. It was 45 to 40, I think it was 44 and a half or something like that. We were down by like a point or half a point. And I told the guys, I said, guys, the 6th place time is better than our school record. Well, we went out and broke the record by 2 seconds. Sauce ran the second leg, ran his usual 53. He ran 53 flat. Okay, Miguel led off with 56.1. Sauce ran a 53 flat. Chris Taft ran 54.2. And then Mike Gaffney ran 52.1. See, I can still do it to this day. I don't know how I do it. It just comes. I don't know what it is. But that was 17 years ago, Sauce. But I remember it like it was yesterday. And you know, to the wall, Sauce, to the wall. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Donald Saucier.
Well, that was humbling. It's funny, I was sitting over there and I kind of knew what I was going to say, and I'll get it back in a second. But yeah, that was nice to hear, and I feel very honored to have been selected by the committee and to be included in this very esteemed company tonight and in past years. And I've got teammates here, I've got teammates in the Hall of Fame from previous years. And I just feel very, very honored to be included with them. I'd like to start out by thanking my family. Without them, none of this would have been possible. I'd like to thank my coaches, most notably Coach McCarthy, but also the coaches like Coach White, Coach Mandeville, Coach Cadju, Coach Coker, my coaches in football, Coach Lynch, Coach McDermott, Coach Barry. And what they did is they taught me an enormous amount about what I later became. I really think that my time at Dartmouth High School was formative, and it created the person you kind of see in front of you today. And as Coach mentioned, I'm a psychology professor at Kansas State University, and normally when I get to talk, I get 50 to 75 minutes. So I'll give you a little bit less than that now, and I'll kind of condense it to a few of the things that I've learned since then. First of all, one of the things that I learned while being an athlete at Dartmouth High School was a formula for success. And this is something that Coach McCarthy actually put on T-shirts that he would give out to the outstanding performers at meets. And basically the formula for success, according to Coach McCarthy, and I've tested it over time and found it to be true, is practice, respect, intensity, dedication, and enthusiasm. And when you put those all together, they spell out pride. And this is something that I've taken with me into everything I've done, and it doesn't just work in athletics. It works in academics too, it works in professionals, it works in academia, it's worked in every phase of my life. Another thing I learned from Coach McCarthy, and I'll get to the punchline after I tell a little bit of a story, it won't take very long, and then another story after that, but we had a meet my senior year, and as Coach mentioned, he had what he thought was a special group. So what he wanted to do was to pitch a shutout in an outdoor track meet. Now, that means that we would have to earn all 128 points throughout that track meet. We didn't do it. We went 123 to 5. We won every event, we got second in every event, but we gave up 5 third-place finishes over that outdoor track meet. I thought that was pretty good. And I went up to Coach after, and I was like, Coach, that was great. And he said, you know, if we had put Mike in the 1 and the 2, and if we had done this and done that and all these other kind of things, we would have shut him out. Now, you might think this is bad sportsmanship, but this was against Bishop Stang, so I think we can all understand what Coach was thinking here. So what I learned was that good enough is not good enough. You need to excel and maximize your performance. Now, the last thing I'd like to share about what I learned is actually something that created my professional aspirations a little bit later. After I graduated from Dartmouth High School, I was killing some time before the start of my first year in college, and I was working at a daycare center. So we would go out to the park and basically kill time from 8 to 5 until the little kids got picked up, and I loved when they got picked up at the end of the day. But we were out there one day, and I was wearing a track t-shirt, and any of you who have even done any fun runs, you realize that track has a lot of t-shirts. And there was a hurdler on this t-shirt, and the kids asked, what's that? I said, that's a hurdler. And I said, well, why are you wearing it? And I said, well, because I am a hurdler. And I said, what does a hurdler do? And I said, well, they run really fast and they jump over things. And if you have any premonition abilities, you see where this is going. So they saw a 50-gallon trash can over there, and they said, well, can you jump over that? And I walked up to it, and I kind of looked at it, and I said, well, I could, but I don't want to. And again, if you know anything about little kids, they started to call me a sissy and a little girl and all this kind of stuff. So I felt the need to prove my manliness and to jump over this trash can. Now, I wasn't an idiot. I stretched out a little bit. And I got all ready to set to go, and I started to jump over this trash can. Unfortunately, one of the things that I learned from Coach McCarthy was when hurdling, it's important to get your lead leg down after going over the hurdle because you are decelerating when you're in the air. You need to get back on the ground real fast. So I put my leg into the trash can. Now, the trash can was about this tall. Little physiology for you there. So I'm catching the rim of a trash can into my groin, running pretty fast. So I hit the trash can, fall on the ground, and I'm now covered in trash while a whole bunch of 8 and 9-year-olds are laughing at me. So I put them all on timeout, and I started to clean up the trash. And while I was cleaning up the trash, I thought of something. I said, you know, why did I do that? And why do people do stupid things? And what I learned later, because this was kind of that inspirational moment that brought me into what we call social psychology, how people behave around and with other people. Sometimes when you put people who know how to do things and you challenge that ability, they feel the need to show off and do it well. What we call this is a challenge to a high unstable self-esteem. And what I basically learned is not only the athletic stuff, but it actually provided the inspiration for me to challenge another field in psychology and to create my own career from that. So I owe lots and lots and lots of things, not only my athletic success, but my career success, to Dartmouth High School, to their athletic programs, and to the wonderful teachers and coaches that they have. Thank you so much for inducting me. It's a pleasure.
Congratulations again, Don. Our next inductee will be Ms. Cheryl Glassman, class of 1993. Ms. Glassman will be presented by Mr. Gerald Hickey. Mr. Hickey is a retired teacher and administrator from the Dartmouth Public Schools. He has been involved in athletics for his entire life, both as an athlete at Durfee High School in Fall River and with the students at Dartmouth High School. He has been involved specifically with the DHS softball program, but has been a supporter of all sports and all athletes at Dartmouth High School. He still resides in Dartmouth with his lovely wife, Ann. Mr. Gerald Hickey.
Thank you very much. Dr. Russell, Mrs. Dimery, Dartmouth High School Hall of Fame Committee, Hall of Fame inductees, families and friends. It's really an honor to be here. And I really appreciate Cheryl asking me because it was the last thing I ever expected, and it was so nice of her and really humbling for me to have somebody think that I would be capable of being someone who could be thought that way. At Dartmouth High School, Cheryl Glassman was truly an athlete for all seasons, where she excelled in soccer, basketball, and softball. In soccer, she was a varsity player for 4 years, elected captain her senior year, led her team to postseason play for 4 years, was an Eastern Athletic Conference and Standard Times All-Star for 3 years. In basketball, she was a 4-year player, an All-Star in 1993. That was the year that the basketball team went 20-2. They also played their last game at Boston Garden. But softball was her great love, and she was a great competitor for 4 years. She had a batting average pretty close to 500. And as a pitcher, in her high school, her earned run average was 1.31. That's 1 1/3 runs per game for 20 games for 4 years. In her senior year, her earned run average was 0.91. That's less than 1 run per game for 20 games. She was elected captain in her senior year, Eastern Athletic Conference All-Star for 3 years, most valuable player in 1992 and 93, B'nai B'rith Jewish Athlete of the Year in 93, Boston Globe All-Scholastic 92 and 93, Boston Herald Spotlight Player in 1993. Pretty impressive credentials. But they didn't end there. She was recruited by the University of Connecticut, a Division I school that competes nationally with the top schools in the country, earning many national championships in many sports. Some of Dartmouth High School's greatest athletes have been recruited by the University of Connecticut and competed at that Division I level. Heather Francis, an All-American in track, is one. Jordan Todman, an All-American in football, another, just to name a few. And a little sidelight, one of her classmates at the university and dear friend moved on to become a basketball player who you might have watched play recently. He's a very good friend, good guy. His name's Ray Allen, and he plays for the Boston Celtics, and he's a pretty good basketball player. Our nominee was a recruited player at the university where she pitched for 4 years. She had a 2.62 earned run average. You know what that is now. Her softball team was Big East and Northeast regional finalist in 1995 and 96. She was a National Female College Association Scholar Athlete and Big East Academic All-Star in 1997. Those are pretty good credentials too, and also a tribute to the kind of education that she received when she was in Dartmouth High School. She earned her Bachelor's of Arts degree in Communications and Marketing, and is currently an account executive with Sprint, where she is one of the top 5% of the managers, of the Sprint managers in the country. When I asked several of her teammates, I told her I was going to be presenting her tonight, and I said, how would you describe her? And they all said these two things: a great competitor and a great teammate. Ladies and gentlemen, Cheryl Glassman.
Thank you, Mr. Hickey. It's truly an honor to have you introducing me tonight. When I was told that I had the ability to ask someone to introduce me, he was the first person that came to mind. Mr. Hickey has been there since DGLL, Dartmouth Girls Little League. He was at many of my games, and for both basketball and softball. He was always very supportive. When I was in middle school, I remember him very well. I had a little bit of an issue, and he was the one person that I felt comfortable going to and confiding in. And he jumped all over it and took care of it right away, and I was very thankful for that. In high school, his daughter played with me in both basketball and softball as well, so he was at every single game. And his words of wisdom and encouragement, regardless of win or loss, were exceptional and memorable. He's a true representation of the faculty, staff, and administration in the Dartmouth school system, and I thank you very much, Mr. Hickey. It's an honor to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Thank you very much to the election committee. Congrats to the other inductees this evening. I'd like to thank my coaches, Mr. DeManch, Mr. Poirier, and Mr. Robidoux, for making me a better athlete and teaching me to push myself to the limit and never be satisfied with the status quo. I'd also like to thank Mr. King and Mr. Lynch for all of your support throughout my 4 years in high school. To my teachers and my assistant coaches, I thank you all. I'm very thankful to have my core support system with me tonight. My mother, my father, who have been there, obviously, my entire life, who have taught me morals and taught me to be the best that I can be. My brother Douglas, who got dragged to all my practices and all my games. And he was a standout golfer as well at Dartmouth High School and actually won a 4-ball right here on this course. My cousin Kim, who's the closest thing I have to a sister, who's always been there. My college roommate Naomi, who's there from my freshman year until today. And my boyfriend Bruce, who's now there for me as my support in today. There are a couple of people I'd like to mention who aren't able to be here with us today. First, my brother Matthew, who lives in San Diego, who not only would love to be here tonight for myself, but also a couple of his friends from high school who are being inducted tonight. Courtney Costa is a friend of his, and Michael Cadero is a very close friend, a very close friend of his as well. Unfortunately, none of my grandparents are here with us today, but there's one in particular that I'd like to recognize. My mother's father, my grandfather Leon, who is an inductee to his high school Hall of Fame in Rahway, New Jersey. He would be so proud, and I wish he could be here. My love of sports began at an early age. My parents put me in gymnastics, ice skating, and dancing. Not my thing. But unfortunately back then, team sports for girls, they just really didn't exist. And if you wanted to play a team sport as a girl, you played with the boys. So when I was 6 years old, my best friend Mark was going to a soccer game, and I went with him. And I came home, and I said, Mom, I really want to play soccer. And my mother looked at me and said, my little girl's not going to run around with those boys. If you want to play, have Mark's mother bring you. Well, back then, there wasn't even a Dartmouth soccer league. So we went to Mattapoisett, and I went. And Mark's mother came back after our first game and said, Joyce, you've got to come. She's actually really good. So then Mom became a soccer mom. And she became my biggest fan. And I'll never forget my last softball game in college when my mom walked over and said, what am I going to do? I can't watch any of your games anymore. So thank you, Mom. My first memory related to basketball was when I was 6.5 years old. And I got off the bus all excited coming home from school, and my mom was home from the hospital with my baby brother Douglas. And I get off the bus and I'm running, and I look up and I see a big basketball hoop right above our garage with a big red bow on it. And I was like, wow. And I went in and I was all excited about the basketball hoop. Little did I know, looking back on it now, it was a bribe, so I wouldn't be jealous of my baby brother Douglas. And I was being forced to like basketball. So, and then it continued. Went to Celtics games, got to meet Bill Walton, sat right behind the bench, saw Larry Bird, Kevin McHale. And I got to see, if you work really hard, where it can bring you. My softball memories don't go back quite as far. Although I do remember playing catch with my dad in the yard, with my cousin's worn-out glove. And then I also remember going to Red Sox games and arguing with my father beforehand because he said, bring your glove. And I said, I'm not bringing my glove. And he said, bring your glove, you might catch a ball. And I wanted nothing to do with it. But I really began playing softball when I was in the Dartmouth Girls Little League. I was a first baseman and a catcher. I took it so seriously that as a first baseman, I had an agreement with the second baseman. Every time we got an out, let's do a somersault. Mr. DeManch would have loved that in high school. I went to summer camp for 2 months every summer. And we had sports day every Thursday. We played against other camps in the area. And girls played volleyball, and the boys played softball. And that's just the way it was. Well, at 11 years old, I wanted nothing to do with volleyball. And I wanted to play softball. So I tried out for the boys' team, and I made it. And I played for several years. And then little did I know, I was going to go to UConn. And one day at a frat party, I bump into a kid, and he comes up to me and says, is your name Cheryl? And I said, yes. And he said, did you go to Camp Tevye? And I said, yes. He said, I went to Bowercrest, the all-boys camp down the road. We had a song about you because our all-star pitcher was out there pitching, and a girl went 3 for 3 off of him, and our entire camp sang a song about you. And he actually sang me the song. It's my dad I truly need to thank. Not only for never missing a game, but actually for becoming a pitcher. One day when I was in 8th grade, my dad came over to me and just out of nowhere said, Cheryl, do you have any desire to pitch? I didn't care. I said, yeah, why not? Whatever. That's where he started bringing me for pitching lessons to Peter Looney in Lakeville. Once a week, he drove me to Lakeville and paid for pitching lessons. Well, the exercises I went through, I had my feet tied together. I had boxes put in front of me so I didn't step too far. And we're like, what's this guy doing? But fast forward, and Peter actually had a softball camp at a Roger Williams College, and I started going to it. Well, it was actually recruiting grounds. The head coach of UConn was there. Several other coaches in the area were there. And next thing I know, I was recruited to UConn. So Dad, thank you. Looking back on all my experiences, both on the field and in the classroom while at Dartmouth, I can't help but be grateful for everything I learned. Communication, teamwork, and leadership are just some of the qualities that I developed while I was at Dartmouth. All these qualities make me successful in what I do today. Being a woman in business, you need to have these qualities. So again, I thank you all for this honor. Thank you.
It's one of the nicest things about tonight is sharing it with the people you care about. Our next inductee will be Mr. Michael Cadero, class of 1997. Mr. Cadero will be presented by Mr. Richard White, and accepting the award for Mr. Cadero will be his brothers Brian and Philip. Mr. White is a 1985 graduate of Dartmouth High School. He has returned to Dartmouth High School as a teacher and a coach. He is presently the head football coach and head girls spring track coach at DHS. He participated in football, basketball, and baseball himself while at DHS has now returned as our very successful head football coach, whose teams have won 4 consecutive league championships and qualified for the football playoffs for the past 3 years. Mr. Richard White.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor for me, for the Cadero family, to ask me to present Michael into the class of 2009 Dartmouth High School Athletic Hall of Fame. Michael Cadero was truly an athlete for all seasons, as most of the inductees here tonight were. Just looking through the booklet, he and classmate Courtney Costa were both voted Student Athletes of the Year in 1997, and that's quite an accomplishment. I don't know if we've ever had that happen before. But Michael, in addition to being voted the outstanding student athlete in the class of 1997, in the fall he was captain of the football team, and a member of the football team for 4 years, played in the Super Bowl, in the Division IIA Super Bowl in 1995, received the Yak Amaral Award from our football program in 1996, and was a Standard Times All-Star. In the winter, Michael participated in track for 3 years. He was the Eastern Athletic Conference shot put champion in 1996 and 1997. He was the captain of the indoor track team his senior year, and he was undefeated in dual meets as a senior. He was a Standard Times All-Star and Herald News All-Star in the winter. Speaking with his dad, Rocky, who is in the Hall of Fame already, he said Michael wasn't very happy when he came up 3 inches short in the shot put of beating Rock's record in the indoor season. So, as this story goes, I think it inspired him going into the spring season to improve on his performance. In the spring is really where Michael had some big accomplishments. It's really where he took off. And being a member of the track team for 4 years in the spring as well, he was the captain of the team his senior year. He was the sophomore year, he held a school record in the shot put, 51 feet 1 inch. In the big one, he is the school record holder in the shot put that was held by his dad, Rock, since 1965. It had previously been held. And Michael was able to break that record and threw the shot 57 feet 1.5 inches. So he was able to put that winter out of his mind and really go for it in the spring. And that record stood for a long time, like I said, 1965. He was the Class B runner-up in 1997. He was the EAC shot put champion 1995 and 1997. And I went online, and that meet record is up until 2007 was 55 feet 2.5 inches. And as of 2007, that meet record still holds. I'm not sure if it has been broken yet, but it at least stood for 10 years. I know that. They set a meet record in the relays, in the shot put relays, and that Class B record still stands today. He was 6th place in the New England Championships in 1997. He was a Boston Herald All-Scholastic, Boston Globe All-Scholastic, Standard Times All-Star, Herald News All-Star that spring. Personally, I had an opportunity to work with Michael quite a bit on the football field. He was an intense competitor. He was the first one on the field to practice. He was the last one to leave. He came in the weight room. I'd have to open the weight room for him. I'd have to kick him out of the weight room to get him to leave. In those days, I supervised the weight room during the summer, and the summers he was there every single day, just trying to improve, just trying to get better, and just working hard. And talking to some football coaches in the area that played against him, they knew they always had to double team Michael because they knew he was coming every single play, no matter what the score. And I think that typified the way he approached his high school career, both in the classroom and on the athletic field. He was definitely a captain who led by example. He was very quiet, but he led by example every day. And you know, it was really a privilege for me, and I know that I'm a better person today for having had the opportunity to coach Michael Cordero. And accepting the award on behalf of Michael are his brothers Brian and Philip Cordero.
Like you heard Coach White say, Mike was pretty quiet. He wasn't big on awards, anyone making a big deal out of anything he did or anything he has accomplished. But I think this is one, if he was around, you know, he'd really be grateful to get it. So my brother Phil is just going to say a couple words and thank some people.
I'd like to take just a moment to thank a few of the members who have made some of this possible for Michael. I'd like to start with the faculty and staff of Dartmouth High School, who I think have did a tremendous job in helping Michael through the years to become the successful athlete that he did become. I'd like to thank the committee for having selected him for induction this evening. I know he's been very happy to have received this award himself. And finally, I'd like to thank our father, Wayne, who actually spent quite a bit of time with Michael outside of normal practice hours to help him beat his own record. So thank you to everyone this evening.
That's what a real father does, Rock. Help him beat your own record. Wouldn't expect anything less of you. Our next inductee will be Miss Courtney Costa, also from the class of 1997. Ms. Costa will be presented by Mr. Ernest Frias. Mr. Frias is a former vice principal at Dartmouth Middle School and a longtime, very successful volleyball coach at Dartmouth High School. His teams won numerous league championships, and Mr. Frias took great pride in teaching the fundamentals of the game of volleyball and always got the most out of his players. Mr. Frias.
Mr. McCarthy said 5'2". On our volleyball team, you were an outside hitter. Superintendent Russell, Principal Dimery, Athletic Director McDermott, Hall of Fame Committee, past inductees, and this year's inductees. There is no greater pleasure as an educator and as a coach than to have the opportunity to present a person who excelled on the court, on the field, and in the classroom. You've heard tonight from everyone here. She is a player of all seasons. Volleyball in the fall, basketball in the winter, softball in the spring. A 3-year varsity volleyball player. She led her team to 2 Eastern Athletic Conference championships and 3 state tournaments. A 3-time Fall River Herald All-Star. In her junior year, that paper wrote, perhaps the best all-around player in our area. 5'3". She excelled in offense and defense, entertaining fans with her high-flying spikes. Yet, the best was still to come. In her senior year, she led her team by registering 101 kills on 517 spikes. She had a 91% serving accuracy. She had 18 aces. She led her team to 22 wins, a second EAC championship in 2 years, and an appearance into the Division I South Sectional Finals. That year, she was named the Volleyball Player of the Year by the New Bedford Standard Times. In basketball, she played on the varsity team her junior and senior year. She captained the team her senior year and was named to the Eastern Athletic Conference All-Star team both years. The spring brought the sport that she excelled in the most, softball. Coach Glenn DeManch, Miss Glassman, I'm sorry. I called the guy up. I said, what can you tell me about Courtney on playing softball? He says to me, anything you ask, she'd step up to the plate. And he didn't even laugh. Only a softball coach. A 4-year varsity player, she was named captain of the team her senior year. She was voted on the all-star teams of both the Fall River Herald and the Standard Times her sophomore, junior, and senior year. The Eastern Athletic Conference voted her player of the year her senior year. That year, she led the team with a 321 batting average and was also tops in RBIs, doubles, triples, assists, and helping the coach with his speeches. The EAC All-Star also played in the Shriners game that featured the top senior from each league in the state. A true student athlete, she graduated from Dartmouth High School as a member of the National Junior Honor Society with a 3.7 GPA. That year, she received a 4-year academic and athletic scholarship for softball to Division II Merrimack College. At Merrimack, she started 4 years as a center fielder. She played in 3 softball college World Series and hit the game-winning home run against Lewis University in one of those World Series games. She received Most Valuable Player Award in the Northeast 10 tournament and was named to both the All Northeast 10 team and All New England team her senior year as a center fielder. By the way, she happened to make Dean's List 6 of the 8 semesters in school. Nurtured by her family and her community, and motivated and driven by self-determination, this inductee sought and found a way to give back. Upon graduation from Merrimack, she decided to be a teacher, an elementary Spanish teacher at the Peebles Elementary School in Bourne, which has personal significance to me, as Bourne is a community in which I was also embraced. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pride that I present to you a young woman with character, and we know that character is what champions are made of. On the court, on the field, and in the classroom. Ms. Courtney L. Costa. That's yours.
Thank you.
That's mine.
Thank you, Mr. Frias. I would just like to take a moment to thank the Hall of Fame Committee, also my coaches at Dartmouth High School, especially Mr. Frias. I would like to thank my parents, especially my father. Without them, I wouldn't be the athlete and person that I am today. Once again, I'm truly honored for this award. Thank you.
Congratulations again, Courtney. Our next inductee will be Coach June Lack. She's very affectionately known to all of us at Dartmouth High School when she worked there as Ma. There's a long story that goes back to that. Mrs. Lack will be presented by Mr. Barry Haskell. Mr. Haskell was a longtime teacher at Dartmouth Middle School and Dartmouth High School. Mr. Haskell worked as Mrs. Lack's assistant coach in both softball and field hockey. Mr. Haskell succeeded Mrs. Lack as the head softball coach at Dartmouth High School and coached his team to the first ever Division I state softball championship at Dartmouth High School. Mr. Haskell has recently retired as the superintendent of schools in Plymouth, Mass. Mr. Barry Haskell.
Congratulations to all the inductees. June Lack has a very long history with Dartmouth High School, and especially Dartmouth High School athletics. June Potter was a 1962 graduate of Dartmouth High School, where she won 11 varsity letters in field hockey, basketball, softball, volleyball, and cheerleading. June attended the University of Connecticut, where she played field hockey, basketball, and softball. In 1969, June began a 34-year career as a phys ed teacher and coach at Dartmouth. During the early years, she coached varsity field hockey, varsity basketball, and varsity softball. June coached varsity softball for 13 years, retiring to umpire as a high school and college level umpire. She later returned to coach freshman softball for 7 seasons. June's greatest achievements may have been as a field hockey coach. The field hockey team won 17 league championships and 22 state tournament qualifications in Division I. Her teams won 2 South Sectional championships, an Eastern Massachusetts championship, and a state championship. June was twice named as Division I High School Field Hockey Coach of the Year by the Boston Globe. The overall record for the field hockey program, including tournament play, was 380 wins, 131 losses, and 82 ties, with a winning record for 32 of the 34 seasons. In addition, her 34-year tenure as a head coach may never be equaled. Coaching is more than numbers. It's about relationships. In the course of 34 years, June impacted the lives of many young people, both in the classroom, on the court, and on the field. Many players went on to play at the college level. Others have become colleagues, as well as both teachers and coaches. Several of her assistant coaches went on to be high school and college head coaches. She taught more than just student athletes. June also played a significant role in guiding the transition of women's athletics at Dartmouth High School. At the beginning of her career, girls' sports were more peripheral activity than they are today. Small numbers of dedicated athletes competed in a few sports. The coaches of female athletes worked as hard but made less than half the pay of the coaches of comparable boys' sports. The Equal Opportunity Education Act of 1972, known as Title IX, changed the playing field, so to speak. It required equal opportunity for female athletes. Sports were added, teams were expanded, facilities were improved and modernized, and female sports became the mainstream as they are today. June was instrumental in encouraging female athletes to participate in sports, as well as mentoring young coaches, some of us male, to work with female athletes. She helped to establish a tradition of high-quality athletic programs for young women at Dartmouth High School. She's a wonderful addition to the Hall of Fame. It is an honor to present June Lack.
Wow. That was very nice. I don't have to say anything. I don't think. Congratulations to the rest of the inductees. I think that's really wonderful, and to all the people who who got in here long before me. I had several, actually a lot. I guess people couldn't put up with me too much, so I had a lot of assistant coaches over the years, and they were all great. I'm not going to lessen any of them, but if there is such a category as best, Barry was my best. I have some thanks to give. I worked under 3 different athletic directors, each very special in their own way, and yet they all have one very special thing in common, and that's their loyalty and support to the athletic program and to each of us coaches. So my thanks to Al Palmieri, Colin Lynch, and Tom McDermott. I appreciate people who don't. There are people who ought to be recognized, I think, especially in a game like field hockey, where the field is so important as far as care goes. And I'd like to the fieldmen that we have have been pretty good, but I'd like to mention 2 in particular, and that's Tony Pinto, who's also in the Hall of Fame. When Tony Pinto was taking care of our fields, the coaches used to joke about coming to Dartmouth golf course. And it wasn't because of all the golfing that was going on the weekends on our fields, but rather the maintenance that he had. And it was excellent. The other one is currently still there, and that's Alan Braley. And I know of no other man that takes such personal pride in what he does. And he just does a marvelous job, and he ought to be thanked. Family, of course, is, I think anybody who's ever coached, been the spouse of a coach, or the son or daughter of a coach, knows that there's a great deal of sacrifice that has to be given by the family. My daughter, Stacy, is here tonight, my granddaughter, both supporters of ours, and she played like 4 years at Apponequet High School in softball, and I'm nervous. in both softball and field hockey, and I think during all those years, I think I got to see her play maybe 3 times, possibly 4, and it's quite a sacrifice to have to be a daughter to a coach, and I love you and appreciate you, and same to my daughter Tenley, who's not here tonight. She's living in Michigan, but I get to see her next weekend. Also to my husband, Frank, who he's my second husband. First one couldn't take the coaching, but anyway, Frank ended up learning the game of field hockey, which is not always that easy for a male to try to understand what all these whistles are about. But Frank really understood the game, and we did a little bit of a role reversal in that he had dinner ready for me when I got home after coaching, and it ended up being a great relationship in that he even came out to practices on weekends and gave us a hand and really learned the game well, and I appreciate. My mom and dad, of course. My dad's no longer with us. My mom is here tonight. Those of you who did go to the games remember the older couple that was sitting off the 50-yard line, and I think many of you used to go up to my mom, who would have a stopwatch and say how much time is left. So I appreciate, everything from that little on up. Thank you, Mom. I also have a special thanks to him, and I was so glad to see that he was here tonight, but a man who not only served as a freshman coach, junior varsity coach, he was one of the, can't say it, too many graduates here, but he was one of the best athletes by far in my graduating class of 1962. This is Dr. Richard Allen. And Richie was, he was a parent of a player, and that player, he was an excellent parent in that he came to almost every game, maybe every game, I don't know, because you never heard him, never said boo, he just let Kara play and me coach. And then after Kara graduated, he came back to the program and was my assistant coach. He volunteered as a freshman coach, and then when he got his teaching job at Tufts, and no longer had that kind of time to devote, he would still come on all his off days and on weekends to help out with the program. And even after I moved on and retired, he still helped out with the program. So, Doc, I love you and thank you very much. Appreciate it. Obviously, all the parents, they're special, and there are parents here that they don't have to be parents involved in my sport. You're so special, whether or not you can go to the games. And I know it's not always easy to get to your kids' games because you have work schedules and other obligations, but you folks are pretty special, and to me personally, I just appreciate being able to borrow your daughters for 3-4 years. Of course, all the kids, I think most every coach at one time or another is accused of playing favorites. You hear that in the background, and it used to make me cringe if I heard it. And then I finally decided that, you know what, that's true. You do play your favorites, and my favorites, you got to understand who your favorites are. And my favorites have always been the kids who worked the hardest and played the best. And those are the kids that played. I'm especially proud of the kids who are already in the Hall of Fame that played field hockey for our program. I think we have, I think there are 14 in there, and 11 of them I got the privilege of coaching. I'm proud of the girls who went on to play Division I field hockey, which is certainly quite an honor. I think at last count we had 9. We had several on scholarship. We had one on a full 5-year scholarship at Boston University, which is pretty amazing. Kids went on also to play at other levels. I think Marilyn Ritz used to joke. Marilyn Ritz was a coach at UMass Dartmouth, and she used to joke about Dartmouth being her farm program because we had so many players that went there. Especially proud of, the kids who gave something back in the way of coaching at the various camps. We have, as was mentioned, kids coaching at the college level, kids coaching at the high school level, officiating. It's been really nice. As a coach, I never believed in a building year. It's kind of just an excuse, I think, for a varsity coach for having a bad team. Building, in my opinion, it's a result of your junior varsity and your freshman programs. So I have to thank all my assistants, both paid and volunteer, and we had a lot of volunteer help. At the JV level, Diane Camacho, Barry Haskell, Mike Doherty, Richard Allen, and Allison Cato. And at the freshman level, Joanne Vieira, Olga Karam, Stacy Bach, Liz Haskell, Richie Allen, Donna Flood, Sherry Flanagan, Beth Brooks, and Laura Perks. I always preach to my players that it's all about we over me, and I thank you very much for this honor, but I want you to understand that it's not about me, but rather all the people that I've thanked tonight. So thank you.
Thanks, June. June, do you remember those days when you were coaching varsity softball and I was coaching freshman baseball and we used to play against each other? Yeah. That was a lot of fun. We enjoyed that. Our final inductee tonight is Mr. Thomas Burke, who will be receiving the Special Achievement Award. Mr. Burke will be presented by Mr. Carlin Lynch. Mr. Lynch needs no introduction to anyone who has had any involvement with Dartmouth High School athletics. He was director of athletics at Dartmouth High School for 30 years and one of the most successful football coaches in the state of Massachusetts or New England. He has been a friend and mentor to many of us in this room. Mr. Lynch, please come up and present your dear friend, Mr. Thomas Burke. Mr. Carlin Lynch.
Thank you, Tom. Good evening, everyone. I know the evening is late, and when you get to be my age, you kind of doze around 10 o'clock. So this is such an honor for me to introduce a friend of mine of many, many years. When Walter Farrier and Rocky Cadero came to Tom McDermott at the committee meeting and nominated Tom Burke, and they came and Tommy called me the next day, I was very overwhelmed by it because no one knows the work that Tom Burke has done for Tom McDermott and Colin Lynch as athletic directors throughout the past 35, 40 years. Three things come into play. In 1977, Dartmouth High School people in town wanted to get lights in the stadium. Dr. Dean Freitas, our legendary friend, who has since passed away, he and Mr. Edward Smith, Walter Smith's dad, got the seed money together to try to get the lights put up. We were lacking quite a bit of funds. Tom Burke, in his infinite wisdom, got a bond together from a bank. He was the co-signer, and then we started collecting money. Eventually, we got the lights paid for. We were the first stadium in this area to have lights. I know some people say, well, they're not good enough right now, but in 1977, they were like Fenway Park to us. So, really, that was the first thing that Tom did that was quite extraordinary, in my opinion. The second thing, he was chairman of the school committee, and Mr. Frias and Mr. Haskell hinted on it earlier, that he put girls' sports on the map here in Dartmouth. As chairman of the school committee, he added 5 girl sports and 2 boys sports, boys and girls soccer, cross country for girls, indoor track for girls, ice hockey for boys. Also, my daughters, 2 of my daughters ran for Coach Porter on the boys team, and then we finally got the girls sports through the school committee, who realized the value of athletics. They realized that it's other half of education, that the competition, the sacrifice, and team unity are the cornerstones of life for each and every one of us here. And the third thing Tom Burke has done over the years, each year donates to the athletic program so we can have team breakup dinners and awards that very few people know about. He's been an unsung hero in the town of Dartmouth, as all the other Special Achievement Award winners have been in the past, such as the esteemed Doc Freitas, Tony Pinto, as June mentioned, Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. Farrier Sr., all those wonderful people, Alvin Glazer. This town was built, the cornerstone of this town was built on people like that. They're really not the Special Achievement Award, they're the unsung heroes of this town. So it's my honor to introduce my friend in the Hall of Fame, Tom Burke.
Thank you very much for really those overgenerous remarks. It indeed is really humbling to receive this award, but I really would like to thank the people that nominated me. It is very, very humbling to be here. I would like to congratulate those athletes, the true athletes that have been inducted into the Hall of Fame, past, present, along with the coaches and the past coaches that have been inducted into the Hall of Fame. And I guess I'd like to congratulate everybody that's participated in athletics, because there's so many lessons of life that you learn from just being a participant, whether you receive the highest award or the lowest award or no award whatsoever, but there are so many lessons of life that you learn from that. And I'd like to thank my wife and my family for being here, my wife Ginger, and my entire family, and really thank my friends for being here, and really dedicate the acceptance of this award to my 6 children, Tom, Steve, Kathy, Jay, Paul, and who did I leave out? Steve, somebody, I don't know. There's so many of the, you have to write them all down, but I mean, they've all participated. They've all participated to a great degree in athletics in the town of Dartmouth. And I'd like to thank my 2 grandsons for being here, Brendan and Andrew, and also thank my 2 prettiest granddaughters, Hannah and Julia. They are really pretty, for being here. So thank you very much for being here. And I knew that I would be very brief for 2 reasons, because it's past my wife's bedtime and I have to go to the bathroom. Thank you very much.
Lynchy took it. Mr. Burke, no one could have said it any better than you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being part of this very special evening. And most of all, thank you to you, the new inductees, and to the Dartmouth High School Athletic Hall of Fame for representing Dartmouth High School, as always, with dignity and class. Thank you all again. Have a wonderful evening.